Silence is unperceived sound. Space is the support of perceived things. The interval is the link between perceived things. Everything and anything is matter connected in some way. The whole is the perception of all connected things, forming a single entity. The space between two things is not empty. The void is the absence of perception. The absence of perception occurs when a perception instrument is not used. When an existing instrument to perceive something is not used, that thing ceases to be perceived. Consequently, it will be considered non-existent, in the resulting sum of all perception instruments in action. Every being, regardless of its identification, is endowed with all instruments of perception. What qualifies and individualizes identified objects is the use of perception instruments, to a greater or lesser degree. This is how the density of the universe is created. The universe is thus defined, from the most subtle part perceived, to the densest part. The qualification of partitioned things is the result of the reference and exercise of perception instruments by the observer. The limitation, or misuse of these instruments by the observer, defines and restricts the perceived universe. If the observer conceptualizes the universe, that concept will be transmitted and understood according to the limits imposed by that observer. The transmitted information, even when contested by a being with more active and refined instruments, contributes to forming communities that understand the universe in a homogeneously limited way. Beings who perpetuate the information received, passed on in various forms, help to maintain the dullness and, consequently, the limitation of the natural perception of other beings. The coexistence, and even the survival of the group, depends on maintaining this state. Breaking this pattern may threaten the cohesion and stability of the collective. It is not uncommon for dormant perception instruments to manifest, revealing new states of things. The questions arising from these newly perceived forms lead to what is called new discoveries, and announce new laws of formation for those things. Depending on who receives the information from a new observation, it may be classified as madness or heresy. The recipient, depending on the degree of their limiting fundamentalism, may not allow the peace and tranquility of the community to be disturbed by the revisions such discoveries may cause. The imposition of silence occurs in various ways, aiming to eliminate agents that might cause such imbalances. Beings do not always survive, while keeping active the various manifested perception instruments. Some remain silent, but continue to fully use all their perceptive abilities. Concealment and silence become necessary, in the face of the realization that it is impossible to sustain arguments against the incomprehension generated by imposed or self-imposed limits of perception. It should be good news, but it is not new information, that all, without exception, are endowed and equipped with the full set of perception instruments. What limits the being's understanding is the inadequate use or atrophy of the perception instruments caused by lack of use. The rare ones exist only because they fully trust their vast capacity. They are rare because they do not accept, nor impose upon themselves, limitations. Their balanced work sets them apart and, at the same time, conceals them, allowing full understanding. The good news is that these beings exist. They carry no aura of masters, saints, or divinities, but are often very close. In contrast, there are those who take advantage of imposed mythical figures, clothing themselves in these myths to deceive, gain advantage, and exert false power over others.